Hey, you. I don't mean to judge, but you don't have enough stuff.
Way to rub it in, jerk.
Know where you can get stuff? We got stuff. Lots of stuff. Get the stuff you need at toxicradio.net or through the free app.
A caveman could do it.
T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, stickers, all featuring your favorite Toxic Radio shows.
Okay, literal goosebumps.
So get off your ass and get your stuff.
I don't think that kind of language is appropriate.
And get some stuff for the people in your life too, you selfish bitch.
You got yourself a deal.
The Toxic Shop. Don't buy it safe. Buy it toxic.
Time to whip out your Christmas balls.
Oh my god.
With Toxic Radio's Kick-Ass Christmas. All December long, nothing but rockin' Christmas tunes. Jingle bells, jingle bells. Not the same old boring Christmas songs over and over again.
Better watch out, better not cry.
It's a kick-ass Christmas.
Santa Claus is coming.
Only on Toxic Radio.
All right, everybody, it's Christmas. Let's party.
Don't play it safe. Play it toxic. Ho, 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 bitches. Like listening to Toxic Radio?
Goddamn right.
Well, don't forget, this is the 21st century. Join us in the social media world. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pornhub.
Pornhub?
Ah, just kidding. Or am I? Toxic Radio. Get infected.
Welcome to show 62, Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Gene Walczak, and to my right, I got the man, the myth, the legend, a fan of the Big Ten, Michigan Wolverines, Scholastic Shally.
Big Ten champions, Wolverines.
Michigan
Wolverines.
Add that yet. To my left, I got Kent State Zone, Cleveland Zone, College, Catrell.
What's going on?
You don't really get much with the Ohio State Buckeyes right
That's
now,
fine.
man.
We'll be smelling the roses soon. It's all good.
Smell some roses. I get it. We got a ton to get into this week. We're going to NCAA recap, obviously. Talk about the Bama-Georgia game. How Georgia, bye week. They knew they were making the playoffs. Decided to take a week off. We got the rankings. Did they get it right? 1 through 4. Did you think anybody else should be in the top 4? We're going to talk about the transfer portal a little bit with Quinn Ewers. Leaving Ohio State. I mean, everyone's jumping away from that program at this point. Then we're going to have Gino on from BetOpenly.com. Talk about BetOpenly.com and their sponsorship and partnership with Wire to Wire. We're going to talk some NFL. We got UFC. I'm ready to get rolling, boys. Let's go. Got to start with, I'll pass the mic to Catrell so he can do his victory lap about Bama and his, obviously his Crimson Tide that he's a fan of. So, Catrell, get us started.
I'm not a fan of them. With Bama, we saw, they weren't too impressed by Georgia beating Arkansas by 37 points. They weren't impressed by them beating Vanderbilt by 47 points. They just went out there and they played football. It was a game in Georgia's backyard in Atlanta, Georgia for the SEC championship, and Georgia just looked like a team that wasn't ready to beat the big dogs yet, and that's kind of what I was expecting to see. I didn't think Bama would win by that much, obviously, but when Bryce Young didn't turn the ball over and Brian Robinson didn't turn the ball over, Georgia had 17 in that first half. They scored 7 in the second half. Offense struggled. Stetson Bennett threw a pick. Bama did what they do.
I think the 24-point second quarter was huge for Bama, obviously. Being 10-0 Georgia early, I'm thinking, this could be a Georgia route, force Bama into throwing the ball. Had that 98-yard drive, and it seemed easy. Bama came out, had that big touchdown pass, and it was all, it was all downhill for Georgia from there. Coming out of half, I thought 24-17, let's get a stop, get the ball, come back, and, you obviously know Mechie was hurt, wasn't playing the second half towards ACL. They throw that bomb on Jamison Williams and up 14 points, and Georgia obviously pressed the rest of that game. They're forcing the ball. They got away from what brought them there, the run game. And obviously Stetson Bennett isn't Kenny Pickett. He's not Bryce Young. He's not even C.J. Stroud. He's Stetson Bennett, and Stetson just he's not built to bring you from 14 down back.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Though?
Yes, of course.
All right,
I'm always open for questions.
Can we agree now that Bama's offense is definitely better than Georgia's offense?
With Mechie, yes. Without Mechie, I don't know. So let's go
Bama's
84-79.
Would
just screen it out a little bit.
Out of 10 people, how many?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, that's all I wanted. That's all I want. I don't care. Nope. Stop. I just wanted it.
Bro, I'm your host, Gene Walczak. I need you to stop for a minute.
Nope.
You made it very clear that you felt like it was a huge gap. I don't think it was a huge gap.
No, I made it very clear that I thought Bama's offense was better, and I thought they're not clearly better, and that's the case. They are
even a Georgia fan. I'm a Georgia fan now, because I can't take 10 more years of this bullshit. Even a Georgia guy like me, like myself, diehard Georgia Bulldog, kidding, obviously, said that Bama's offense was better. I just didn't think it was that much better. And with Mechie there, it is that much better. So I can kind of admit that. I have no problem saying when I was wrong about a game.
Okay.
Shally, how'd you think the game went? You were on my side of the fence, and you had Georgia by double digits, and I want to hear your thoughts.
No, I mean it's. I think Alabama. I don't want to use the word exposed because I hate that word, but they came in with a game plan and they were determined to execute it. I think they kind of the way they played the game, they kind of admitted that they weren't going to beat, Georgia going running the ball 30 times a game, going against that front seven. I think they kind of came out and said, hey, like, you guys are better there. As long as our offensive line gives Bryce a little bit of time to throw the ball, we think your secondary is your weakness, and that's what we're going to try to exploit. And, I mean, boy, did they. They even talked about on the telecast, that how much experience they lost on the back end last year. And Bryce had a day, man. I don't know. I mean, it's, I guess it's a good thing they're not playing the rematch in 3 weeks because I don't know that the outcome's any different. I don't know what Georgia can change.
Yeah, the rematch will be in 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, after the committee propped it up for him, yeah. It's, I don't know. I don't think you're going to say anything different. And I mean, I listened to a lot of crap for the last 5 years about Harbaugh not beating at Ohio State. People need to start talking about Kirby. He's 0 for 4. He's probably going to be 0 for 5. He can't beat Nick. So this was the year that everything was going his way. Country was behind them. They were number one, definitely favored. They went out and got smoked. So
okay, so I want to answer Joseph Jeffers' question. He goes, how much will you put on Kirby for not changing quarterbacks? I don't think he should have changed quarterbacks. I think that that's the dog that got you there, and I think Stetson's been their guy all year. I said it earlier in the season when me and Dante were arguing, and he was just trying to make this big thing like JT Daniels, like, look, this is Kirby Smart doing the right thing by holding back JT when JT wants to play. I'm like, JT lost his damn job, bro. And he did. He lost his job. He's been healthy now for over a month. And Stetson's job. And, you have I don't think Stetson was playing terrible football until the end of the third quarter, early fourth. Like, I still think that, like, Georgia was in that game. Like, when do you make the change? Like, what is your thought process on going to JT Daniels? I don't think that would be something I would do.
No, I think the thought process is you've now seen the way that game unfolded, and if you get it a game like that, he is not a guy that's going to be able to throw the ball 45 times and bring you back into it. So you go into a game knowing if you get to Alabama again, it's going to have to be a track meet. Like that game is not going to be, that game's never going to be a 24-21 game where you can turn around, hand it off the ball 30 times and methodically go up and down the field. Like, that's not what that game's going to be. So I think the thinking is, if you're going into it again, do you really expect anything different out of Stetson?
I can't agree with you. I think it won't be a track meet. So this is, well, you can laugh, but my thought process is what Georgia did in that second half, and like we can all agree that second half Bama wasn't as good as first half. The pick six that Bama had in the second half.
Pick six?
No. Bill. I'd like to finish my point.
Go ahead. You talk over people all the time. Go.
24 points they had in the first half, or 24 points they had in the first half, all in the second quarter. The second half, they scored 10. They scored 10 points the second half. And, the pick six was 7 from the defensive side of the ball, but their offense without Mechie only having to single in on Jamison, I think that it will be a 24-21 game. I think it will be a lower scoring game. I don't think it will be a track meet with one Alabama stud receiver right now. And I think that the same thing that you've seen in the Auburn game when Jamison went out, where it was just focus on Mechie, it's the same thing versus Georgia when you just have to focus on Jamison. You can double him all game.
The one thing that you're leaving out, though, is that Alabama simplified their offense in the second half after they were up 2 scores. Like, they were trying to run clock towards the end of the fourth quarter. Like, they weren't trying to, get shot plays. They weren't calling up shot plays. They were up 2 to 3 scores pretty much the entire fourth quarter, and Georgia had the ball a lot of that. They were driving the length of the field, and they were getting in the red zone. They just couldn't capitalize, and they were, it was 4-down territory pretty much towards the end of the third quarter. It was 4-down territory the rest of the game. So Bama was trying to run clock. They kept their offense pretty simple. Obviously, their offense did take a blow without Mechie being in there. But we saw when they wanted to move the ball at the end of the game, 4-minute drive, they put it together and they moved the ball as easy as they could. I think a lot of that is that they were trying to run clock. Georgia's not a team you can really run clock on. They got a front seven that's going to be all over you. You're not going to run the ball well against Georgia. To Bama's credit, though, their offensive line did a great job. They were definitely controlling the trenches in that one. But when it mattered most, then Alabama needed to move the ball. We saw them; they were able to get that done, convert third downs, and ultimately put the game away. So, I mean, I don't know who's to say how the rematch goes, but there was nothing in there that gave me hope for Georgia to overcome outside of Mechie being lost for the season.
I think the other thing that's going to be different if they play a month from now is Robinson's going to be healthy. He played, he suited up, he did what he could do. There was a couple times he could have broke a couple runs, and he just had no burst. I mean, you could see his leg was bothering him. It was wrapped. It was taped. They covered it with a sleeve, but he's going to be healthy a month from now, assuming he gets through the Cincinnati game. So that's going to be another weapon he's going to have back at full disposal. I mean, obviously, Mechie not being there is going to alter the offense. I don't think it stops them from running what they want to run. And it's also going to give Saban a month to prepare for them to play again. And Saban versus Kirby on a rematch after Saban already had the upper hand. Kirby's going to have to change what he did. Saban can either do the same thing he did or change things he did. I'll put my money on Saban. Kirby hasn't shown me anything to put faith in him that he's going to get that done.
Real quick, I just wanted to respond to Joseph Jeffers. KJ Daniels is not a playmaker. That's just not who he is. If you want to say that he may have a few more like downfield passes than Stetson Bennett, sure. But KJ Daniels is a guy who
isn't it JT?
I said KJ. I don't know what I'm thinking about.
You don't even know his name. That's how much of a non-playmaker he is.
He lost his job at USC. He lost his job here at Georgia. It's just not who he is. I don't see. JT Daniels had to show me anything that would have said, hey, this guy can bring us back from 21 down. It's a little bit different when in a situation like Oklahoma where they're bringing in a 5-star kid off the bench in Caleb Williams. It's not the same situation. And in that situation, too, with Georgia, do you really want to throw JT Daniels, down 21 in a game that you're probably not going to win? Or, are you thinking more long-term where maybe JT Daniels is your guy in the future? And, national championship game down the way, maybe he was thinking, first round matchup with Bama was in the cards too. Why put all your cards on the table in the game you're probably not going to win anyway? It's just, I feel like there's a lot that goes into that, but I don't think JT Daniels would have brought them back from 21 down in a game against Bama in a quarter and a half.
I agree with you. I think that one of the things that gets not mentioned as much is, and you guys both said it, is the offensive line versus Georgia's defensive line and pass protection was awesome. Alabama's offensive line controlled that game, gave Bryce the time that he needed in the pocket, and I just didn't think that would happen. So I think that's very understated, and I'm glad that we all brought that up here. Speaking of Bama, Georgia, and them playing again, we think that the committee got the rankings right. And I know Bill's very strongly about this. Like, do you want to start? Because I have a rebuttal already.
We're
waiting for this moment.
Yeah, you're Georgia fandom is going to come out now.
No, I have my rankings.
I said before they even came out, I said during Saturday it should go Bama or Michigan 2, the other one 1, the other one 2, Cincinnati should be 3, Georgia should be 4. I saw a very interesting interview today. They even said that if Oklahoma State would have won, there was a good shot Georgia wasn't going to make it. So I don't know how you justify saying Oklahoma State would have made it in 4 and you would have bumped Cincinnati up to 3 for that. But since Oklahoma State lost, Georgia was entitled to the 3 seed. So the inconsistency, you pretty much ratted on yourself as the committee. They say they don't handpick and they don't manipulate things to avoid. There's one team that doesn't have a copy specifically so they wouldn't play again. It's pretty much clear as day. I don't know. I think their hatred for Cincinnati, having to put Cincinnati in, showed quite evidently for them to put him 4 and pretty much punishing them by giving them Bama
should have been 1. Or you think Michigan should have been 1?
When you beat the one team, like I understand putting them over it. The resumes are similar.
I think Michigan's resume might be better.
Yeah, they're close. Again, I'm not mad about it. If they were 1 or 2, it was going to be what it was going to be. I just don't think you can justify Georgia being 3 whatsoever to me.
You know what? I agree with you. I think the Georgia should have been 4. Like in my rankings, I have Michigan 1, Alabama 2. That's the way it should have been. So, I mean, it would match up these Georgia versus Michigan and Alabama versus Cincinnati in the 2-3 game. What do you think, Catrell?
Before that, we were at halftime, and I thought that the committee were going to do exactly what they did. And I texted you guys, and I was like, yeah, Shiley, this sucks for you because you get the Big Ten championship, like everything goes your way, and they're going to stick you with Georgia as the 2 seed. Shouldn't have happened, but I just knew. I know what's going on in that room. Like not obviously not literally, but there's a Power 5 bias there, and they've made it clear as day this whole entire time. Cincinnati couldn't get any higher than 4, no matter what happened. Had Alabama won, they would have, but it's really a shame because that's Cincinnati should have been higher than what they were.
That's the part I don't get. So like if Georgia wins, they admitted since he was going to 3. So you obviously have no problem putting them there. And then you come out and say if Oklahoma State won, most people in the room were siding with putting a Power 5 champion in at 4 and knocking Georgia out. So how the hell do you put Georgia 3? The only logical situation to take from that, or deduction to take from that, is you didn't want to play Bama again.
Yep, absolutely.
In my scenario, I don't have them playing Bama again. I have Michigan 1 and Georgia 4.
But I think, it says a lot, though, when you beat the consensus number 1. Like,
Correct.
Georgia had 66 votes, 66 first place votes, going into the final week. And as a 3 seed, you beat them in a game that's obvious. It was neutral. It was a neutral field, but like it was in Georgia's backyard. And the way you did it, it wasn't like you had a walk-off field goal. It was we handled them, pretty convincingly. I think that's what moves you up to 1. Michigan, they don't have any. Their resume speaks for itself. They couldn't have played any better. I just think it was the matchup. Like had Iowa been ranked a little bit higher, if Iowa was the 4 seed or if Iowa was the 5 seed, it may be a little bit different. But the way it played out, I just think that last game was the bump over the edge that Alabama needed to get to 1.
So, question, just trying to understand, if Bama was 3 and Michigan was 2 going into that, what more could Michigan have done to not get jumped? Like, I follow your point. Like, what more could they have done, though? They won 41-3.
I think at that point it was out of their hands. Similar to what, obviously not the exact same magnitude, but similar to how it was in the Heisman race. It's out of, if you're not playing, it's out of your hands. Or if you're playing a school like how Kenny Pickett is, he was playing Wake Forest. Like, as good as he was, it was out of his hands if Bryce Young had a great day. I think it was kind of a similar thing with these 2 schools. When you're going up against the best team in the country and they were the consensus number 1, it wasn't like there was any controversy about who should be 1 going into that week. Okay. Georgia was the clear-cut, best team in the country up until that point. And the way that Bama performed, I don't think there was anything Michigan. I think Michigan could have beat Iowa 100-0. If you go out and you put that many points on the team who's national championship favorites in a lot of books, there's not much you could do.
I think if the Bama Georgia game was close, I think Michigan could end up at 1. I think the way Alabama won and running away and again pretty convincingly, I think that is what sealed it. I think if that's like you said, like a walk-off field goal game, I think Michigan's probably won. You beat 13th ranked team in the country 42-3, and they're really never in the game. You can't do anything else. I mean, if you win 42-3 or 56-3, that like Catrell said, it's not going to matter at that point. It was all dependent upon what Alabama did against Georgia. So again, I wasn't mad at all with Alabama. I figured they would jump us. I think again, I just think what they did to Cincinnati is just a joke. They need.
So I mean, but ideally, would you have been upset with Michigan 1, Bama 2, Cincinnati 3, Georgia 4?
No.
Okay.
Georgia should be 4. My gripe isn't where we landed; it's where Georgia landed and what they did to Cincinnati.
In my eyes, the matchups are the same, so I'm cool with it. The same matchups. There's no home field advantage.
Right. The argument for Michigan over Alabama is a lot better than it is than you're pushing Georgia at 3 down my throat after they got smoked and the non-conference champion.
I think a lot of it too is they're probably thinking bigger picture. We saw the odds come out already. Georgia and Alabama are favored respectively in their games. If you have Georgia as the 1 seed and you have if you have Alabama as your 1 seed and you have Georgia as your 3 seed, it's a flop from what it was in the SEC championship game. Stories, narratives, everything going to be around that. It's almost like picture perfect. Like they've set the scene for this national championship game. And I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion that both these teams are going to win, but it seems like they've already set the stage for it to be this this rematch of the ages. 1 versus 3. It was the other way around before. Is the game going to be the other way around now? Like there's just so many. It just seems like a storybook, like cliche kind of feel to it.
All fabricated at this point.
Okay, well we got to get into Quinn, your boy from Ohio State. So let's get into that real quick because we'll have Gino calling in about 7 minutes. So we have to get into that topic now. So you want to tell the story, Catrell?
So, for those of you who don't know, if you watch our show, I'm sure you know who he is. But Quinn Ewers was the number 1 quarterback for us coming in this year. He left high school a year early, so he was supposed to be in the class of 2022. He reclassified to get his $1.5 million NIL signing deal done. Came in as a quarterback, 17 years old at Ohio State. Was here the whole year. Really didn't play. Took 2 snaps all year. Handoff for both of them. And after the season was over, he decided that he wanted to transfer out, put his name in the portal. And that's where we are right now. We're waiting for him to make a decision. Obviously, he's visiting schools right now. We don't know where he's going just yet, but that's just the background of who he is and where we are now.
So, what do you think about him transferring out?
I think it's a little early. I feel like if you're a guy going in to a program like Ohio State, especially when you left high school a year early, you should give it a minimum of 2 years. Regardless, he was going to redshirt this year. There was no quorums about that. Like that wasn't a shock to him or anything like that. Everyone in the country knew he was going to redshirt this year. Of course, no one knew that C.J. Stroud was going to be as good as he was this year either. But waiting a year behind C.J. Stroud wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world. C.J. Stroud just got named as a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. In my mind, I would think that this is Ohio State's 4th Heisman candidate in the past 4 years. So in my mind, I'm thinking.
So now you're sitting there like, they're not going to give me the job over a Heisman Trophy finalist. So I'm just going to go somewhere where
you're not going to Texas Tech. So that's just plain and simple. You go to any of these programs, you go to Michigan, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia. You go to any of those programs, if you're signing your national letter of intent to go there, you are walking in to a quarterback room that is going to be full of 4- and 5-star kids. There are 4- and 5-star kids that go to these schools that never step on the field, ever. Never play. You know that going in. If you are afraid of that, then don't commit. It's as simple as that. I can tell you this though, if he ends up going to Texas, I don't know how that's going to work because if he's afraid of competition, it's going to get real hard next year. He's going to have 1 year there because Archie's probably going there next year after that. And I promise you, the second that kid steps on campus, he's playing. So I don't know which looks better. You left Ohio State because you didn't want to beat out Stroud. Obviously, that situation changed from the time that he signed his national letter of intent to when he got on campus. But that being said, again, I don't think anybody said he wasn't going to play next year. You just got to earn it. You're obviously none of these programs are going to walk on and be like, hey, you know what? Here's your job. Like you just go do your thing now. Like Nick Saban doesn't do that. Like why would he think Ryan Day is going to do that? Steve Sarkisian's not going to do that. Those guys all make $10 million a year because they win football games. Whoever is behind center and gives them the best chance to win is going to be their quarterback. They don't hand jobs to anybody. So again, it is a little premature. We have to see where he ends up. But listen, to your point, if your whole goal is to play 2 years and get to the NFL, I promise you, man, there's only 30 starting quarterback spots on this planet in the NFL. You're going to compete every day of your career in the NFL. So if you're afraid of it, you ain't going to make it in the NFL, let alone college.
And I think the narrative you're painting around him being afraid of competition is inaccurate. I think
we don't know if it's inaccurate yet. Correct. Let's see where he goes. If he goes to Texas Tech, it's clear as day.
You're giving an opinion. I'm giving mine. Right. I feel yours. I understand it. I just don't agree that that's the narrative. But it's 9:01. I'm a minute late. Gino, I apologize. But we want to welcome onto the show the founder and owner of BetOpenly.com, Gino Donati. Did I say it right, Gino? Did I say the last name right? Can you hear us?
You nailed it, my dude. How we doing?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you perfectly.
Perfect. So I
can hear you perfectly.
Awesome. I just wanted to give you the floor to start to kind of tell us a little bit about BetOpenly.com. I've already started using it. I got a couple bets in tonight. I got the Cavs. I hope they're winning. I'm not. I'm obviously on the podcast right now, so let's see how they end up. But I love it. Peer-to-peer betting. Just tell the listeners about BetOpenly.com, how they can get involved, and then we'll have you on for some sports talk because I know you love that too.
Your Cavs are up 23.
Nice.
Sorry, there's like a lag. I don't know if it's on my end, if I did something wrong.
No. I mean, there's a little bit of a lag, but don't sweat it. Just tell us a little bit about BetOpenly.com, and then we'll pause every time we're ready for you to talk.
Cool. No sweat. Long story short, BetOpenly is a peer-to-peer open sports marketplace. You create your own lines and odds, and arguably the best part of the hook is that it's only 1% juice instead of 10%. And I always tell people this, not to be like a math whiz, but 1% juice versus 10% is not just 9% less. It's actually 90% less. And the vast majority of sports fans, like all of us on this call and everyone watching, we want to be entertained. And nothing's worse than all the money we have to lose paying in the VIG, the rake, etc. And that shit adds up quick, man. If you're $100 better with us, $1 versus $10 in a week.
That's a lot of savings. I've noticed it so far, making just a few bets on there. I'm super interested in the product. I'm super interested. I'm so glad that we've communicated. I follow you on TikTok, and for anybody that gambles, if you don't follow this guy on TikTok, you're really kind of you're missing the boat. He gives a lot of he explains very what I've tried to explain to people on the show about reverse line movement, things of that nature, and I think that he's a good TikTok. Gino, anything else you want to tell us about BetOpenly? Like the one thing I thought was unique was that I can literally click down and see what other people are betting on, and I can kind of see like just the graph. Like I can put in $50 versus this guy in Ohio. I thought that was pretty cool. You want to tell us more about that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So essentially, I don't want to bore anyone like too deep with like the roadmap and stuff. But the premise is that, for everyone, I think I used the analogy on our call. For everyone that likes the Niners this weekend, someone out there likes Cincy, right? And so that's like the very basic premise is if you can connect two people that like opposite bets, let's just save them money on juice. Then from there, I can get into the roadmap a little. I don't want to make this all about me, but I'm happy to. we allow you can text people. I always make jokes on TikTok about I never I never make fun of people that have different size units. And the reality is you could take as little as $10 of someone else's bet. And there's nothing wrong with that. Thank you for the shout out about my TikTok. I grew up gambling. I've been gambling $100 a game probably since I was like 15. And the reality is I was tired of paying juice, even more so than just that simple use case or that simple pain. People like arguing sports and people like being right. And what we're trying to do, and that's where the name Bet Openly came from, is, you're sitting next to a stranger at the bar and dude's like, Niners don't have a chance. And you say that to me, I'm wearing my Niner hat. You say that to me at the bar, I want to bet you. Let's bet. What do you got on it? Throw it down. Now, I'm not a bill collector. I'm not trying to chase this dude down. I don't know if he has the money, but that's one of the use cases. Is two strangers can bet on Bet Openly at just 1%. And then going even further, just to let you know, like some of the stuff we're doing, it's web-based. So in addition to creating your own lines and odds, you can send them out. We're also going to have some cool shit where, like the NFTs, we're getting into the crypto NFT space. You're going to be able to buy an NFT of a bet type, and that'll discount your juice even more. So let's just say, like, this is a real one. Poly Parlay. When we sell our NFTs on Super from 1% down to less than 1%, let's just say we knock off down to 0.75% or 0.5%. And then getting really cool, if you're into like the collection space, if you ever collected cards, I'm also going to have NFTs for each team. So let's just say, I'm a faithful Niner fan. Let's say I owned a Niners faithful NFT and I owned a Poly Parlay. If I do a parlay that has the Niners in it, it knocks the juice down even more. So point is, we're trying to save people money. The last thing I'll say about my TikTok and Bet Openly, I preach like a broken record all about bankroll management and how many people mismanage their bankrolls, burn through money. And the best thing you can do is really understand that technically your bankroll is the total amount you're willing to lose before you have to quit gambling. I know that's like gets dark for a second, but like say to yourself, how much can I bet before I have to act? You really got to stick to 1 unit on most plays. Maybe get up to 2 units if you have multiple systems. Good feel on the game. And then last but not least, don't really go past 3 units on a game. Anyone that regularly bets over 3% of their total bankroll has an insane bust rate, like over 97, 98%. And who wants to bust out everything they have? I bet when I was 15, I was a bookie from 15 to 25. And I just said to myself, what could put me out of business? It's peer-to-peer. I use that Airbnb analogy with hotels, stuff like that. So,
no, it's great stuff. Thank you, Gino. I appreciate it. You guys, you'll have a lot more information on our Facebook page. So any questions, we'll kind of field them through there. But we're going to get back to the show. We're going to get back to some breaking down of sports games. First one up, we're going to go on the Cowboys versus the Washington football team. This is a near and dear to our heart in the NFC East. I'll get Gino's thoughts on the Jalen Hurts Gardner Minshew thing before we get off. But Cowboys versus football team. It's a huge divisional match. The football team plays Dallas twice still, and they're only 2 games back in the division. Washington's been on a hell of a win streak. Ron Rivera's got those guys playing great football. What are your guys' thoughts on the game? What are you guys' thoughts on Washington versus Dallas? I'm going to give all 3 of you guys the floor for this because I'm picking this game. It's one of my 3 picks. I feel very strongly about one side. Bill, what's your thoughts? I'll start with you.
I think you're going to get Dallas's best foot here, best foot forward. If they win this game, they're 3 games up in the division. I think they play New York next week, and then they play Washington again. So this is a big game for Dallas. They're going to have everybody back fully healthy. Zeke will be a little bit better. He had a press conference today, said you pretty much have to drag him off the field. His knee's not getting any worse. It's getting a little bit better. He's just going to play pretty much till it blows out, I guess. They really haven't said what's wrong with it yet. I think Dallas wins this game. I think it's a close game. I do think Washington will stay in the game. Ron Rivera, like you said, has those guys believing. They're all fighting Taylor Heineke's right now. I think it'll be a lower scoring game than most people would probably expect. NFC East Divisional this time of year, it's always, rough, tough football. But with Dallas being fully healthy, CD will be there. Cooper's back. The coaching staff will be back. I like Dallas to win. I feel pretty comfortable with Dallas winning that game.
Catrell, what are your thoughts?
I do think Dallas is going to win the game as well. I mean, eventually this almost feels like Fitz magic in Washington right now with what's going on with Heineke. He's not. I mean, obviously, he's playing well enough. The other thing too with Washington is that Antonio Gibson is not healthy. Like, obviously Zeke's not healthy, but Tony Pollard is more than capable to step up and be that like lead back or 1B to Zeke. In Washington with Antonio Gibson, like he's not getting any better. I think eventually you're going to have to rely more on the run game. Taylor Heineke is just not – I just don't have full faith in him yet. I do think the Washington defense is finally starting to come around, and it's crazy that they're still missing, their top two guys. But defense has played a lot better. The team is rallying around Taylor Heineke. They have this mindset that they just want to win at all costs, and it's crazy to think is as bad they started out the season, they're right in the thick of it for – the division. I mean, they're already in the wild card spot, but they're right in the thick of it for the division, only being 2 games back. I think Dallas is just has too much for them. And I know it's in Washington, but I think Dallas goes there and they get the win. I think they sneak it out. I actually think Washington covers. I think Dallas just finds a way to win.
Okay, well, that's really interesting takes on it. Without giving away my stance too much, Antonio Gibson hasn't been healthy all year, but he's the healthiest he's been all year the last few weeks. Gino, what are your thoughts on the Washington football team versus Dallas? What do you like? How do you see that game playing out?
Yeah, I'll give you both my opinion and like the sports betting world data. So right now the Sharps, it's just a nickname for pros, like wise guys, good fellow, whatever you want to call them. The Sharps actually have Dallas money line, so they have Dallas to win the game, but they have Washington +4 covering. So of all I've heard you guys say, I'd say they line with Catrell the most, that they think it's going to be a close game. Some of them are willing to lay the -190, even though it's going to be a close game. And then the other people are saying, I'm going to take those +4. So those are the 2 sharp angles on that game. And personally, I probably wouldn't lay a lot on it, but I don't know what it is. I just feel like Washington could squeak this one out. I haven't seen the Dallas I saw 3 weeks ago. I feel like since that blowout bounce back against the garbage Atlanta team, Dallas to me doesn't seem an 8-4 team. They seem more like 7-5 kind of team to me, 6-6 kind of team to me. And that's going to hurt a lot of people because I know them boys get a lot of support.
Yeah, well, we hate them here. We're Philadelphia Eagles fans here. Catrell's a Browns fan. I will get into my thoughts on this during my Pickem segment because I have it as one of my games this week. Feel very strongly about it. The next game on the agenda is very near and dear to Catrell's heart. It's Ravens at Browns. So I'll start with you, Catrell. What are your thoughts on this game?
So I thought it was very interesting to see that the Browns were 2.5-point favorites after all they've been through in the past 6 weeks. I think that the Browns are going to find a way to win this game. Cleveland media is trying to get me to buy in that Baker Mayfield is healthier this week and that this is the best he's been in the past 8 weeks. Still not quite there yet. I think they're going to find a way to actually run the ball and run the ball effectively. Kareem Hunt, he's back now. He played the first Ravens game. He didn't have a high usage rate, but I think given the bye week and then having another week to recover, I think that's going to be big for them. Baker, I think he's going to be, pedestrian. I don't think he's going to lose us the game. The other thing that you got to count on though is that Lamar Jackson's not going to turn the ball over 4 times again. I do think the blueprint has somewhat been laid to slow down Lamar. You blitz them, they're gonna have more struggles on offense. Marlon Humphrey's going to be out now for the season. I think that's a huge blow for them. I think the Browns find a way to squeak this one out. They probably win. I think they cover. They're at 2.5. I think they cover. I think they win by like 4 or 5 points.
Okay. Gino, I'm gonna head to you second because and I'll go third. I'll let Shally finish this one off.
Man, I'm piggybacking on Catrell here. Line opened up at Ravens -1. It's Cleveland -2.5 now. Both the public and the sharps came in pretty heavy on Cleveland. I got to admit, I promise I don't do this every year, but Cleveland, a lot of people, the dark horse to win the Super Bowl. I still think Cleveland is going to make the playoffs, and I think they are going to be a very dangerous team in the playoffs with both the running backs. I know people hate on Baker. I think he has too much. He gets put too much weight on his shoulders that he shouldn't get. He's not that good, but I think he's a very functioning quarterback. And as a Niner fan who made it to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G, I know Baker could do that if their D steps up and their run game gets going. So I like sprinkling small money here and there. I keep putting a little bit more every week on Cleveland to win the AFC. I think they are a dangerous, dangerous team if they can squeak in those playoffs.
Definitely. I hear you there. So as far as my breakdown of this game, I look at games that go from, 2 years ago in Pittsburgh and even last year, teams that played after they played at Pittsburgh were getting crushed because Pittsburgh's defense was so suffocating and hitting people hard. And Baltimore had a huge letdown game to me in Pittsburgh. Then they lose Marlon Humphrey for the season. I don't know how much more that Baltimore team can take. I look at this game just like I said before. Nothing wrong with a little muck and grind, and I think that's what this game will be, muck and grind. Cleveland, Baltimore, low scoring, hit you in the mouth, strong football, and if the Browns can run the ball like I think they can, I think they'll win the game. And I think that Baltimore is just falling apart physically. Obviously the team's mentally strong because they've made it so far with so many injuries they had so far this year. But I just think that I don't know how much more you can take. Losing Marlon Humphrey is huge. Cleveland doesn't really have the wide receivers that are going to take advantage of that. But as a whole, I think that running the ball with Chubb and Hunt and that offensive line after a bye week, hopefully Cleveland rallies behind Baker. I know they were falling off that train already, but I like the Browns in this one too. What do you think?
This is one of my picks, so I'm not going to go super in-depth right now. But I think just like the Dallas-Washington game, this is a rivalry game. It's a divisional game. It's going to be cold. It's going to be two teams, if everybody was healthy, would rather run the ball than throw the ball. I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. It'll be hard-hitting. I think there'll probably be some nastiness in it. It'll be a good game to watch. It's, Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. Got to see how Baker rebounds coming off a bye. Hopefully, they settled some stuff in the locker room. Hopefully, everybody can put their egos aside and get on the same page and realize the opportunity they have to finish the season and make the playoffs and make a run is still in front of them. It's all there for their taking. So I'll make a pick on this later when we do pick them, but I think it's gonna be a very good, entertaining game to watch if you're a football fan.
I felt like you were gonna do that, which is why I went with you last on this one. But I'm gonna start with you on this one. Rams Cards. This is one of the two games of the week. Rams Cards, Bills Bucks. Two huge games this week. But Rams Cards, another divisional game, another rivalry game. Kyler Murray seems to be healthy. I'm gonna start with you, my friend.
I'll go brief unless I'm picking this as well. But Arizona looked like a different team last week. They got Kyler back coming off a bye. You looked healthy. You looked great. First drive down the field, threw a dime to Nuke for a touchdown in the corner of the end zone. He looked a little bit healthy. I think they nursed him a little last week too, to make sure he could play this week. That's gonna be a fun game. I mean, all the talent that both teams have on the field. I think it'll be a little bit of higher scoring. I don't think the Rams defense has quite been what we thought it was going to be this year. And the Cardinals are kind of more of a bend don't break type team. So I think if everybody plays well, it's gonna be one of those games where the stars shine. Be a good fantasy game. And I'll tell my pick when we get to pick them. But I think it's gonna be a very good game, and it's gonna go a long way towards controlling that division for the rest of the year. So I think it's a bigger game for the Rams than it is for the Cardinals.
So I'll say it very simple. I really think the Rams haven't looked like the Rams for weeks. Ever since the week they played the Titans. And I think they just haven't looked the same since that game versus the Titans. And Robert Woods gets hurt, tears his ACL. You have obviously right before that game, you have Odell Beckham in there. I'm not sure how acclimated he is. The run game with Darrell Henderson being out last week, they got Jacksonville. Obviously, that's a W on most people's records, but I still don't think the Rams look like the Rams. Will they get right here? I don't know. I do know that the Arizona Cardinals consistently, week in and week out, come in and play hard-nosed football on both sides of it. They got 2 running backs that can play. James Conner's played great this year. Kyler Murray. They got a plethora of weapons. And your guy's favorite coach of the year, just to hate on me, Cliff Kingsbury. He's doing a great job. If I had to pick the game, it's in Arizona. The rivalry games, I think it's going to be low scoring. I'm picking the under in the game. It's one of my picks. I'll give it away now. But I love the under in this game, 51.5. I'll go Cards in a close one, 28-27. 24-23 is what I had written down. Gino, what do you got on this one?
Gene, I'm with you here. 2 reasons. One, if you look ahead on the Cards schedule, if they win this game, they're cakewalking to the number 1 seed. There's only 1 bye this year. They've been hurt. That bye means as much to them as any team FC. So this is essentially, they win this game at home after going into LA and beating them, and they have the 1 seed. They have the only bye. I don't think they let this opportunity slip away. There's also a really good system. I've seen it argued different ways, so don't hold me to this, but some people argue that it's after week 10. Other people say it's after week 9. Tomato to me. But division rivals under hit about 75% of the time. So the public is hammering the over in this game. The sentiment is 2 powerful offenses going against each other. Rams D is not what it is. Cardinals D is no problem bending, not breaking. But I think a great bet is on the under in this game.
Yeah, I like the under also. I don't know why it's 20-27. 24-23 is what I had. Have that written down on my piece of paper. But Catrell, what are your thoughts on the game?
I'm going to keep it real simple. I think these teams talent-wise are very close. I think it's hard to beat a good team twice in the same season. I use that a lot in, whether it's college football or NFL. I do think the Rams are going to win this game. I think they're going to find a way. The Rams haven't looked anything close to what the expectations were. They beat that Bucs team, and it was like, this team right here could win the Super Bowl this year. And then they laid an egg against Tennessee, and then you get, Odell, you get Von Miller, and they just haven't been able to put it all together. And, last week against the Jags, I think that was their opportunity to try and put it all together. Granted, the Jags aren't that good of a football team, but it was a chance for them to, in a sense, it was almost like an exhibition match where it was like, we can see what works for us, what doesn't work for us, concept-wise, what our guys comfortable doing, what not. I think that could have been a confidence boost for them. Everyone knew they were going to win that game. There was never a doubt or anything like that. But going into this game, I thought that game could have been easily portrayed as like a trap game where it was like, we got this Jags team who they aren't that good. We can just steamroll over them without hardly trying. We know we got Arizona next week. They didn't let that happen. So I think the Rams are going to find a way to go to Arizona and get the win.
Okay. So the last one's Bills-Bucks, so why don't you start us off there?
So this game is going to be very, very interesting. Clearly the elements in Monday's game with the Bills weren't ideal at all. But I'm curious to see how this Bills team rebounds. I think they're going to rebound well. I think that's going to be a tight game. I think it's at 5.5 right now, or what is it?
It's 3.
Is it 3?
Bucks by
Bucks
3? minus 3.
Which is home field advantage.
It's literally the biggest trap you'll ever see.
Yep. But Tom Brady's looking good. I mean, he might win MVP this year. So Bucks at home. Antonio Brown suspended, but I don't think that's going to hinder him too much. Gronk looked good. He was out for 5-6 weeks, and he came back looking like the Gronk that we're used to seeing. I do think the Bucks win this one. I do think it's another close game.
So I want to follow up on that because Brad Hooper keeps hitting me up on the wire line about the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football and about my pick with Buffalo. I think, listen, I was all over Buffalo last week, and I can easily admit that I was wrong there. New England played the smarter game. I really think the win hindered that game so much. If you look at those two teams and say, before going into that game, you say, who is the better running team? You would always say New England. Who is the better passing team? You would always say Buffalo. with the wind being 23 miles an hour and wind gusts up to 44 miles an hour during that game, you can't. I can't really get a huge judgment of what that game would have looked like if they could pass the football. What I can say with 100% certainty is Bill Belichick 100% outcoached Sean McDermott. And for Sean McDermott to get in this press conference and talk about, let's not give Bill any more credit than he deserves, I probably wouldn't do that to the 20 years, 19 out of 20 years, AFC East champions. Take a year off due to COVID, and now they're back in first place. I probably wouldn't have did that if I was Sean McDermott. But as far as Bills Bucks go, everything in me looks at this game and says the Bucks should win the game. The spread being 3 makes me sick. Buffalo's lost on Monday Night Football, traveling on the road on a short week at Tampa Bay. I can't pick the game because I think the Bucks should win the game. But everything looking at that spread tells me Buffalo is the pick here. So if I guess I'll go a 1-point Tampa Bay win, which would cover the Buffalo spread, but I can't. I don't know why. I just don't have the gall to pick Buffalo. Gino, what are your thoughts?
I'm still pissed about that Buffalo game. No matter what Bill did, and he won, so he's winning. He's sitting there saying, yeah, judge me all you want. Buffalo had 3 chances to win that game at the end. First off, they had 3 chances on first, 2 of them were on first goal. Then they missed that field goal in the wind. We're talking by an inch. All the guy had to do was overcorrect. I don't know how he couldn't figure out, it's simple math. That shit drives me nuts. And still, if that field goal goes in, they lose by 1 or 2, whatever. They lose by 2, right? Because they would have been up 1 with Bills coming down their throat. I don't know. New England broke 1 run. Other than that, they were pretty dismal. I think Buffalo's the better team. I agree with you with that win. It's a different game. I think everyone's too low on Buffalo because of that game. I don't know if it was poor coaching, poor prep, hard-headedness. I don't know. I still think Buffalo was playing a chess game. They knew what Belichick was doing, and they were still there in the end and ready to win it. Don't like the play calling at the end. I don't think they ran too many up the middle. They didn't run enough outside with that big quarterback. They could have ran options and stuff. But all that aside, I tell you all that, I actually think Buffalo is going to punch Tampa Bay in the mouth. The second bold statement I'll say on here is the 2 most overrated teams in the NFC, even though they're still good teams, in my opinion, are Dallas and Tampa Bay. I haven't seen enough from them that they are that much better than the teams that fall in the 6 and 6, 7 and 7 range. I just haven't. I can't forget that Tampa Bay came off a bye, and Washington had them since the first quarter. And honestly, there was never really a moment where I was like, oh, that's going to collapse. It was like, no, Washington, this is their game to win from the first quarter. And I don't know. I think Buffalo is going to be able to match Tampa Bay on offense, and I do currently think Buffalo's defense as is better than Tampa Bay's defense is playing as is. I wasn't impressed with what I saw Tampa Bay allow Atlanta to do.
So I don't disagree with you completely about the Tampa Bay thing. I mean, I've seen it all year. They went to Philadelphia when Philadelphia was in shambles and barely won that game. They lost at New Orleans. They got, obviously it's a divisional game. They lost at Washington. They haven't looked at dominant Tampa Bay, but something about Tom Brady in December, and December hit. Something about Tom Brady in December, I don't know how I pick against them. That's why I'm just staying away from the game. But I totally hear you. Bill, what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I agree and disagree with some of what everybody said, actually. I think that the one problem you're seeing with Buffalo is, and we've talked about it, and, it's been talked about on this show, on national levels and everything, they're very one-dimensional. That team goes as Allen goes and Diggs in the passing game. They don't have a running game. They have 2 running backs that they've had on the team for 2 years now, and I think Allen's their leading rusher, I still believe, I think. They can't run the ball. You get in December and you get into bad weather games, and unfortunately stuff like that pops up. If you don't have a running game, it really hinders what you can do. But going down to Tampa, I mean, it's I hate to say, but I mean they're on the ledge of desperation. They lose Sunday. They're 7-6. They're not in the playoffs, which is crazy to think. how highly we were talking about them after they beat Kansas City, week 2 in that primetime game. I expect a very good game. I agree with what Gino said about Dallas, especially. I think Dallas has benefited this year just being in a really bad NFC East. I've said it, numerous times on the show. I don't think they're that good. I think they're going to the playoffs. I think they're probably going to lose first round. Tampa Bay, I think Tampa Bay has an issue where they won last year. They have a little bit of a hangover effect. They also have guys on that team. Unfortunately, they have enough of them that can kind of turn it on when they want to turn it on. And I think, to Gene's point, when they play Philadelphia, when they play Washington, when they don't play these big marquee games, you see them play down. You see them get a little lackadaisical. They leave teams in games. Sometimes they lose. I don't think you're going to get that version of that team Sunday against Buffalo. This is the game of the week. All the bright lights will be on. Brady and all those guys are going to show up. They have Gronk back healthy. He's been a wrecking ball the last 2 weeks. Allen is a stud. He's going to go in there. He's going to compete. I think it's going to be a very good game. The good thing about this week is Tampa Bay's weakness on defense is their secondary, which is what Buffalo wants to do. They want to throw the ball. So I think it's going to be a very close game. It's to Gene's point. I think it's very hard to pick against Tom Brady at the end of the year. He just wins too much to do it. I mean, it's one of those things you can pick against them, and then when he wins, you're just like, I just don't know why I did that. Like, it's just stupid. Like, I know better. So I think Tampa Bay wins a very close game. And the only thing I would say to you, Gino, is have you ever kicked a football in the winter and win? Not easy. Not easy at all. This little correction thing is way more advanced than that, buddy. I could give you 10 of those kicks. You probably won't make one of them. I would put good money on that.
California, so.
Bill kicked for his local high school team. He's a high school kicker, and he's a lover of kickers, man.
Yeah, he's a kicker aficionado.
There's a reason Justin Tucker's so well respected.
His hero is Justin Tucker. Like, he needs a jersey.
I looked at them the other day, actually. I do want one.
I agree with almost everything Bill said. That what I'll add to it, just the desperation. Let's not forget that the Bills still have hunger in their mouth, right? We thought they were a Super Bowl team last year. If they go to 7-6, they're in trouble. They could fall underneath Pitt. Pitt. It's Pitt, right? Yeah, they would fall underneath Pitt. And Tampa Bay has a 4-game lead in their dismal division. I really do think, I agree with everything you said. The Tampa Bay does play down to the teams. They will be ready for this game. I do think the Bills will be able to expose their secondary. And again, it's my bold call. I think we see it where Tom can't even come back because they're down 10 points plus.
Okay, well that's an interesting take on it. We're gonna get into our pick'em segment. We'll go 3 picks. Everybody gives 3 picks. Gino, you can go last so you can kind of see how our vibe is with it. And Catrell, start us off this week.
All right, so my first pick this week is going to be the Saints -5.5 at the Jets. I know Taysom Hill's having this issue. He's basically got the same injury that Russell Wilson just had with his finger, but Taysom Hill he's just a better option for anything that the Saints have. Even with his messed up finger and the horrible balls he was throwing in Dallas, they were still finding ways to move the ball down the field. And if he doesn't have as many turnovers as he's did, that game's probably closer than what it is. Against this Jets team, they just got nothing for me. I think the Saints defense is going to go in there. They're going to shut down everything the Jets have to offer, and they're going to find a way to win that game by at least a touchdown. I like the over in the Falcons and the Panthers game. I feel like that's a game where, who knows who the Carolina Panthers quarterback is going to be. Who knows who it's going to be after halftime. But I think they're going to be able to find a way to score points in that Atlanta Falcons defense. And on the flip side of it, we saw the Atlanta Falcons be able to move the ball somewhat effectively against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, and I think they'll have even more success against that Panthers defense. And then I like the Bengals +1.5 at home versus the 49ers. I think the Bengals are feeling a little bit after losing to the Chargers last week. They know they got to keep ground, and with the 49ers not having Deebo Samuel, I think their offense takes a huge step back. Elijah Mitchell's questionable. He's probably going to play, but he is questionable for that game. I think the Bengals just have too much manpower at home. It's probably going to be a colder game. Those West Coast cats got to fly over to the East Coast and deal with the cold weather, everything like that. I like the Bengals to win by, 5 points or so.
So a couple comments on what you just said. One of my picks I almost made was the Jets +5. I think it's too many points for a team that's starting Taysom Hill at quarterback. And I actually really like the over in that game too, which I didn't pick because I don't think either defense will stop each other in New York. I think New Orleans' defense looks a lot better at home than they do on the road. And I think the Jets have proven that they're going to give up as points to anybody. Gardner Minshew, it doesn't matter who you are, we're giving up 30 points to you. But that's just a couple points on that. And I think Deebo Samuel's going to play. Deebo Samuel I think he was listed on the COVID list Monday. He missed last week. It was more of a game time decision. But I think he's actually going to play this week. He's questionable. I think he's leaning towards playing. But there's just a couple points there. Bill, you want to give me yours?
Didn't Deebo miss last week because of his groin though?
He did.
Yeah, I mean there's no way he's 100% if he plays. I think the big thing, I agree with you in the New Orleans game. I think the big factor with that is too, it looks like Kamara's going to play. So if he plays, that totally changes that offense as well. It takes a lot of pressure off Taysom Hill, and New York just stinks. Like they're terrible. So I think if New Orleans goes up there and plays half decent, I think they win that game and they cover. But I'll get into mine now. My first game, just like Catrell, I'm taking Cincinnati plus 1.5 at home. I actually love this game. Cincinnati, I said it a couple weeks ago, I think Cincinnati and the Chargers are the two teams that I never get right. When I pick them, they stink, and the weeks I pick against them, they look great. I picked them I didn't pick them on here, but I picked them in my pool last week. They didn't play well. So I'm going to pick them this week, and they should play well. I don't think San Francisco's going to travel well. And again, Cincinnati's right in the thick of that AFC playoff race as well. You can't lose home games in December if you want to make the playoffs. So I think they pull it out. I think Burrow cuts down the mistakes a little bit this week. Get Chase going a little bit. Mixon's having a hell of a year. He's finally staying healthy. I think Cincinnati gets it done. I think Cincinnati gets enough stops in that game to pull out a close game late. So I'll take Cincinnati plus 1.5 at home. Arizona minus 2.5. Said this earlier, I was going to pick this game. I love Arizona at minus 2.5 as well. It's a field goal game. I think at home, to Gino's point, I think they know what's at stake here. I think if they win this game, they pretty much know they're going to wrap up the NFC West, and then they can really concentrate on getting the 1 seed and getting the bye. They're healthy. They're getting people back. As you said, they have weapons all over the field. They look like a completely different team when Kyler came back last week. He didn't look like he missed a step at all. And I think I've said it before, too. I'm not a huge Sean McVay guy. I think Sean McVay gets way more credit than he deserves for never winning anything, and he loses a lot of big games. I think Cliff outcoaches him Sunday. I'll take Arizona minus 2.5 at home. My last game, we're taking Catrell's Cleveland Browns minus 2.5 against Baltimore. I think you nailed a lot of stuff on the head earlier. I don't know how much that team can sustain in Baltimore and just keep showing up and out like gut check and just keep, just dragging like low, like ugly wins out. That's just hard to do week in and week out in the NFL. Lamar Jackson has more interceptions than any other quarterback in the league this year, which is uncharacteristic for him. I think if Cleveland can control the pace of this game and run the ball, which they're probably going to be able to do against that banged-up Baltimore defense, run Baker on play action, get Landry, get Peoples-Jones, get all those guys involved, I think Cleveland can win this game easily. I don't think it'll be an easy win because it's a rivalry game. It's a division game. But I really like Cleveland at home minus 2.5. I think the week off came probably at the exact right time for them. Again, I hope Baker did some damage control behind the scenes. Like I said, at the end of the day, man, if you're a professional athlete, you want to win. And I hope all those guys are on the same page and want to look forward and realize they can still win the division. They can still go to the playoffs. They can still make a Super Bowl run. That's all in front of them. So I'm going to take them at home to win, get back on the right track. And like I said, I think Baltimore's going to start to slide.
Fair points. I have I'll go for my picks right now. I was close to picking the 49ers in that game just because I thought the spread was really funky, and they're coming off that loss versus Seattle, which they had no business losing that game. Gino will talk about that. He's a 49ers guy. But here are my official picks. Washington +4. I talked about this already. 4.5. The public loves hammer in Dallas. I'd wait till kickoff before you get this one. You'll probably get it at 4.5. You might even get it at 5.
Agreed.
I think Washington is the pick here. I think it's a very close game. I think Washington could pull the game out. And if they don't pull it out, I could see it being a very low-scoring game that's won by a field goal. So I'll take Washington +4. I love the under in the Cards versus Rams game. Cards-Rams, I don't think the Rams offense is what we thought it once was, especially losing Robert Woods and trying to incorporate Odell Beckham Jr. I think their running game is very banged up. Obviously, no Cam Akers this year. Darrell Henderson missed last week. And I think that the Cardinals just playing a divisional team second time, obviously the Rams are a lot more familiar with them, and I think that they'll keep the game low scoring. Like I said, I have a 24-23 Cardinals. And then the game I like the most this week, and the only thing that scares me away from it is Kirk Cousins in primetime. But I love the Vikings -3 Thursday night. I really do. I think that they're coming off that loss versus Detroit. Big Ben is beat up. He's retiring after this year. Short week after playing Baltimore. Emotional letdown game. It's very, very tough for them to get that win versus Baltimore, go on the road and play at Minnesota on Thursday night. I really like the Vikings -3 in this one. The only thing that scares me is Kirk Cousins in primetime. He is just a career shit the better in primetime games. So that's the only thing that stopped me from bumping this one up. But I got the Vikings -3 as my third play this week. Gino, what you got?
Dogs are going to bark. I'll lay off the Niners one, but that is a pick of mine as a fan favorite, but it's not an official pick telling people to put their money next to it. I think us with Debo, even though I heard Debo is a different team, but I'll skim over that one. Huge fan of Houston +7.5. Seattle is absolutely garbage. Houston's defense is semi-decent, and I think they got worked so hard because Indy is probably the best team with their record in the history of NFL. So I'm on Houston +7.5. It's a lot of value at home. Seattle's not that great, and they are not playing for a whole lot. Jumping past Houston, I like Detroit. I've been liking Detroit all year to cover, not to win. You're going to give me 8.5. Detroit could score. Denver can't score. You give me 8.5 in a game that I think the over-under is like 41. No brainer. TJ, come on. He'll throw one in there. And last but not least, I think one of the best value plays, no question, just for value return on investment on your money, is Buffalo money line. I'm not taking the 3. I'm not taking the 3.5. I want my 1.5 to 1. So I'm going Buffalo money line +150.
I like it. I like the money line action. So we'll keep up with your picks, and we'll add you to our Pickem segment if you want to give us our picks each week. Our Pickem segment is brought to you by BetOpenly.com. It's so cool having Gino on the show and talking to him and getting your view on things. We're going to move into UFC. Obviously, we have UFC card to talk about.
269.
It would have been a way better card if Jorge versus Leon was still on this card. That drives me nuts. So if you don't know, obviously most of our listeners do, Jorge is my favorite fighter currently in MMA. I love the way the shit talk he brings. I love the action he brings to the fight, and I think that he always shows up ready for a fight. Kind of reminds me of Clay Guida, what he was 6-7 years ago. You know what I mean?
That's
like
funny. That
that guy that shows up every week that wants a fight, and I love that.
Clay Guida just won last week too.
I know, I've seen that. And by the way, not to get too far into that Clay Guida fight, that fight should have been stopped, man.
Should have. Clay should have lost.
100%.
Should have lost.
That was terrible.
Definitely should have lost.
I don't know how that guy literally gassed himself out and beat the snot out of Clay.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminded me of when Clay beat the snot out of Frankie Edgar, and everyone thought that fight should have been stopped. And then Frankie came back and won the fight in a 5-round decision, which I thought was... I honestly had that first round, Clay Guida, Frankie Edgar, 10-6. I never given a 10-6 before, and I gave a 10-6 in that round. And Frankie came back and dominated, won that fight. So that's a fun topic. But we got the Who Wants to Fight Amanda Nunes fight to start. I don't know how they keep finding fights for her. I guess they're paying people a lot of money to go in there and get the shit kicked out of them. This month, it's Juliana Pena. Juliana Pena came off a majority decision, a submission. I don't know how she gets in the ring with the champion. I think it's just who is going to fight her at this point. But she's not very marketable. I don't think it's a very marketable person for her. But Amanda's going to run through this fight. And hopefully, just hopefully, I'm praying that Dana White sees how bad Amanda Nunes is running through these divisions and sets up a Valentina Shevchenko versus Amanda Nunes fight at 135. That's what everybody wants to see, except Dana White, who wants to protect his investments. But let's get into Amanda versus Juliana.
That's what Dana gets paid to do.
So, like, I guess the thought process would be, I think we're all picking it, Amanda, but
I would hope so.
When do you think she wins the fight? Like, what type of prop do you think she can win the fight by? Like, what do you think? So, like, you want to go first round KO, which is probably like minus 200. Like,
yeah.
No, she's only minus 400 for the fight. It's not like it.
She's minus 900.
900.
I don't want to interrupt. I want to leave respectfully. When I know nothing about something, I bow out. And you guys are way out of my league in the UFC. I enjoy all three of you. I'm looking forward to sponsoring the Pickem. I'm looking forward to becoming a partner closer together in 2022, guys. I really like your show. Let's keep it going.
I appreciate it, Gino. Thank you very much. I kind of want to keep you involved with UFC, but I understand if it's not a huge topic. We'll talk more, obviously.
I just don't want to embarrass myself.
I need you to get me into that Capper Pickem thing they're doing on TikTok. I know you can't. I don't have 3,000 followers on TikTok. I just started it. But I want to get into that because I'm telling you right now. And how are you letting Trent win that right now?
Do me a favor. Make a video about Bet Openly on TikTok. I'll stitch it. I'll get you 3,000 followers overnight and we'll be homies.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much. We'll do.
Cheers, my dudes.
Gino. Appreciate it.
Later.
So that sounds interesting. He's gonna stitch our our video. I'll make a video about Bet Openly. That sounds fun. Let's do that. So let's get into when does Amanda Nunes win the fight?
You have the odds up. I mean, I would assume.
I do.
First.
I just got it up.
Okay.
I love it.
So for the fight to go the distance, yes is plus 340.
I thought it'd be higher than that, to be honest.
Fight to start round 2. Yes is minus 168. No is plus 122.
So there's
third round.
What's the over under 1.5 then?
The over under. Let's see. Yes, 1.5.
Yeah.
What's the under 1.5?
102.
Okay. What?
Minus 102.
Yep.
Sounds about right. I mean, listen, it's about like I'm literally ever sitting like, did she knock her out in the first round or did she get her like early too? That's literally my thought process before I heard anyone. That's why like.
So why wouldn't you go under 1.5 then?
Because again, maybe she gets out of the first round somehow.
The thing with these like UFC fighters too is that going in, Juliana Pena and her camp probably know like chances are we're not going to beat Amanda. Let's try and stick around as long as possible. So you don't know if she's going to try and grapple her, if she's just going to run from her for a round and a half. Like I don't think there's anything that points to us thinking that this fight's going to last longer than a round. But I mean, who knows what she goes into the octagon thinking, like game plan wise.
It's interesting because I mean, Nunes isn't a slow starter either. Like she's an aggressive fighter, so it's like you're trying to predict when does she land that right hand because that's where it's going to start. I mean, she's going to win. She's going to win by some kind of crime. I just don't know when it's going to be.
Some kind of crime.
If you go knockout, it's minus 330.
Oof, Jesus. I mean, that's what it's going to be. I'll go crazy and just say Pena somehow survives the first round. I'll say early second round knockout stoppage for Nunes, which means if you're betting, she's probably going to win in 13 seconds. So don't do what I'm doing.
Your thoughts?
I actually think this fight goes a little bit longer. I think that it's going to go to the third round.
Jesus.
And I think that is
we are on ledges now.
That is when I think Amanda's going to dominate round 1 and round 2. I just think Juliana Pena is going to have enough to keep that fight going. I actually think that Amanda wins by submission. I think she's going to knock her down, and she's going to get on top of her, and she's going to find whatever submission she feels like to finish that fight, whether it be if she's covering up, she goes for a rear naked, she's just on her back or whatever. But I do think Amanda knocks her down and then she submits her third round.
Totally different vision of this fight than I think most people do.
Did you hear the drama with this fight?
How can there be drama in this fight?
So, just so you know, Juliana's been talking a lot of shit about the fight.
She has to.
And Amanda called her a clown and said she ripped her.
I thought you were going to say the other C word, and I was like, now I'm
No,
intrigued.
no. She called her a clown, and there's a lot more shit talk in this fight than I've seen in most Amanda
Poking the bear.
fights.
That's the wrong thing.
She got to self-fight. She's got to. I mean, what is she going to do? We all know the inevitable ending, how this ends.
I will give Juliana credit. I just want to double check through her record. Juliana's never been KO'd. She was TKO'd by a doctor stoppage because of blood, but she's never been stopped in a fight other than submission.
Most times she loses by submission.
Who has she fought anywhere near close to the striking capability of Amanda Nunes?
Nobody. G did. Jermaine, Sarah McMahon, Valentino. She fought Valentina Shevchenko.
How'd that end?
Second round submission, armbar. She fought Katzengano, Jessica I. She's got, she's definitely got a lot of
respectable,
and she's beat a lot of them. So maybe she will take it. Maybe we go to over 1.5. What do you think?
I'm in the second round. He's in the third. He's saying
we're going over 1.5 for a show.
Yeah, we can take down. Like I said, as soon as we lock that in,
15 seconds.
I guarantee she's out cold within 30 seconds. She's gonna come in. She's gonna call her a clown. I'm gonna punch her in the face, and it's gonna be over.
Okay, so
what do you got?
I'll take Amanda in the third round then.
Third?
End of the second. This is why I'm different.
I thought you were on my side here.
I kind of am. I kind of am.
If this fight goes 3 rounds, I'll be shocked. But I mean, hey,
stranger things have happened.
True. It's true. It is a fight.
I mean, the guy with pink hair beat Kimbo. Do you guys remember that? Long story.
Kimbo's a fraud, man.
Hey, don't speak ill of the dead.
Charles Oliveira.
Du Bronx.
Dustin Poirier.
Diamond.
It goes down Saturday night. What do you guys think?
You want me to go, or are you going to go, Shally?
I'll go. I don't care. I like Dustin a lot. I think Oliveira's rise to the championship has been amazing. I'm glad he got that shot. I'm glad he won. I think Dustin's the dude at 155 right now. I think this is a very good fight. I think it's a war. When I say I like Dustin a lot, I don't think Dustin's going to dominate him by any means or anything like that. I just feel very confident that Dustin's going to win the fight Saturday night. I've talked to a lot of people about this fight, and, a lot of Conor people, and there is no bigger Conor person than myself. And I will agree, Conor was probably winning that fight before he broke his ankle. Granted, it was only a round, but Dustin still looked like Dustin in that fight, though. I think he has too much. I really don't know how Oliveira's going to win the fight on the feet. I just don't see it. I think if he gets the fight to the ground, I think he has a chance to win the fight. And I don't know if he's going to be able to do that for 3 or 4 rounds. I think Dustin's striking's too good. He's a fighter that we're watching right now that, we always see fighters get into a zone where they have 4 or 5 fights. It's the peak of their career. It's the best performances they ever put on. We're right in the middle of that with Dustin right now, I feel. I think Dustin wins the belt Saturday. He did the smart thing and took the money fight before this, made his money off the Conor fights, and now he's focusing on the belt. So I think he takes care of business Saturday. I wouldn't be surprised if this fight goes the distance. I think it's going to be a very good fight. It's a very good way to close out the year for UFC. I think it's a good fight. 155, we've all talked about how it's the best division. I think nothing changes Saturday, but I really like Dustin to win. I think Dustin's the new champion Saturday night.
Bill, I could literally echo almost everything that you said. I think the fight will be a war. I think the fight will be a very good fight. The only thing I disagree with is you said you don't see how Charles could win the fight by knockout. He knocked out Chandler. And, to be honest with you, after watching that Gaethje Chandler fight, obviously Chandler's got a chin.
I don't think that he can't knock him out, and I don't think that's what I said, but if I did, that's not what I meant. I don't think he's going to win the fight. I don't think he's going to win 3 or 4 rounds of the fight just strictly standing and trading hands. I think Dustin's the better striker. In all honesty, I think Oliveira might actually be the better overall fighter, but when somebody's one strength is that good. Like I said, I don't think Dustin allows him to continue to take this fight to the floor. So it's a fight. I mean, Oliveira is obviously more than capable of landing one punch and ending the fight. Like, that's not what I meant, but I don't think he's going to outstrike Dustin for 5 rounds. I just don't see that.
Fair points. I think Dustin wins the fight. What do you think? Are you on the other side?
I think that the past 4 years, Dustin has the best resume out of almost anybody. I mean, you put his names up against anybody's, and he can go toe for toe. I do think that my man Charles Oliveira does have. I think he's a better overall, like, all around fighter. I do think this fight's going to get to the ground a couple times. And I do think, obviously Poirier has the advantage in the stand-up, but I think, Oliveira can strike with him as well. I do think this fight's going to be a war. I do echo those sentiments from both you guys. But I'm going with Dude Bronx in this one. I think it goes the distance, and I think he's going to have him on the scorecard. It's going to be 3-2. I think he's going to have him on the scorecards. I think he's going to have, the takedowns are going to count big towards the end of the fight. And I think, Charles is going to be up on a lot of these scorecards. Dustin Poirier is he's not a flashy guy, but he's the flashier of the two. I do think you're going to see some crazy strikes. They're going to go back and forth. I think this fight can end early. I think both these guys are just too tough to let it not go the distance. So I got Oliveira, 48-47 in the decision.
I think Oliveira definitely wins the first round. I think Dustin's shown, even with Conor, he lets guys like that kind of come out, do their thing, and then really get settled in, get his timing, and then I think you'll see Dustin get really strong in the middle of the fight. I think it's going to be a great fight. I hope it's not an early knockout. I mean, I never get mad when people get knocked out, but we've talked numerous times about the couple fights we've talked about being fights of the year. I think this could be a very late candidate to the party to end the year on. I think this has the opportunity and the possibility to be that type of fight.
I just to kind of give a couple other.
I have one too, so I hope it's not the one I'm going to
think there's value in Kai Kara. I think he's going to win the fight, and I think that there's value on Paiva over O'Malley. I think Sugar could lose that fight. I think there's good value.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I mean, I think it's the first guy he's fought that's actually like ranked. I mean, listen, we Catrell. I mean, you guys talked about it too. He's got to start fighting people eventually. I know people love him and he's a fan guy or whatever, but I don't want to see him keep fighting these dudes that don't matter. Like, you got to move up and start taking fights. I kind of like Garbrandt in that fight though. I don't know. That's gonna be a good fight, but I mean, there's value on both sides of that. I think Cody is the favorite, but he's only like -140 or something like that.
Cody's got no chin though, man.
Yeah. He doesn't, but him moving down in weight has definitely been a benefit for him.
Yeah.
The other thing too on that card, the undercard of that.
Don't you dare say it. I know you're gonna say it.
Bam Bam, baby.
No, wait, no, go ahead.
Bam Bam fights on the undercard of 269. So I think that's gonna be, if you're a UFC guy, Bam Bam's one of the most, fan friendly people. This is the guy who was drinking beers out of people's shoes. So, you got him fighting, you got O'Malley fighting. Like, I feel like these are, some of the guys who their rankings may not be high, but they're entertaining and people will tune in to see these guys fight. So, Saturday is going to be a fun one for sure.
You also have Dominic Cruz buried on the undercard of this fight. We've talked about him a couple times with him making another run and, how he can, if he can string a couple wins together, he's a very awkward guy to fight against. He can make a lot of people look very uncomfortable. So I'm curious to see how he looks Saturday. If he wins that fight, I think you probably see him early 2022, probably against a bigger name, and then it gets real interesting if he can string a couple together.
Sounds simple enough. So let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me. Troy, you want to start us off?
Absolutely. I'm going with my Buckeyes here, and not for a good thing. For those of you who don't know, Eli Ricks is, one of the best young cornerbacks in the country. He was from LSU. He played before he got injured this year, sat out afterwards. And he was basically going to be the next one up. So you had Greedy Williams in the past. You had, Christian Fulton. You had Eric Stingley, who's the next one this year. Eli Ricks was basically the next one up. Best cornerback in the transfer portal, and Ohio State was considered one of the top top candidates to land him. It just came out a couple days ago that they wanted to back off recruiting him because there was, friction in the Ohio State camp with Ryan Day and his players that, if Eli Ricks came in, then some of these guys who are already at Ohio State would leave because they didn't want to compete with this guy. I think that's the absolute wrong mindset to have. Competition breeds success, as Gene likes to say. And when you're at a school like Ohio State, you go there to compete. Nothing is handed to you. Everything is earned. And for you to be that soft that, a kid transferred in from LSU, you don't want to compete against them and you think the job is, already won, it's completely, foolish, and it's soft. Like, it is what it is. I hate using that word with these kids, but it's a soft mindset to have. Eli Ricks, it's going to be a new system for him. You're already there. You got the advantage over him. You're a 4-star, 5-star kid probably as well, and you're afraid this kid coming in is going to beat you out. It's a complete joke, and so for that this week.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
No, he's just going to go to Alabama instead. And speaking of LSU, can we talk about the absolute tidal wave of people leaving that program right now?
Yep.
That is a really good possibility to start real bad for Brian Kelly the first couple years.
I love it.
They had 3 more kids transfer today.
Good.
And
lose them all.
With
those kids loved Ed O.
Bro, screw Brian Kelly.
With those sanctions coming, that could be a real rough first couple years from Brian Kelly. So for mine, I'm going to stay in the old college football arena. I'm going to go with University of Miami on how they handled firing Manny Diaz and hiring Mario Cristobal. I look at college athletics is getting more and more about money than it already was before. But I also look at when you're a football coach and you have certain responsibilities, these parents trust you to kind of raise their kids for pretty much 3 or 4 years, depending how long they stay there. Make them better men, make them more mature, make them better people. And then you have people behind the scenes doing stupid stuff like this. If you're not familiar, Miami reached out to Mario about taking the Miami job. But the funny thing was, they didn't let Manny Diaz know, and they pretty much told him, hey, if he accepts the job, we're going to fire you. If not, I guess we'll keep you because we have no other options. It's just bad business. It's a horrible example for the kids. If you're Manny Diaz, I don't know how you just didn't quit. That's what I would have done. I'd have been like, screw you. If you obviously don't want me, I'm out of here. And I hope Mario turns you down.
Buyout.
I guess. I mean, again, money, root of all evil with college athletics. But it's just another example. We've talked about it earlier in the show, about kids transferring, kids doing this, kids are making decisions over money. This is why, because they see adults that are in power and adults that are responsible for these kids on campus doing BS like this. You're in a major program. Miami, depending on your age, Miami was a premier program in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was Alabama of now. That's what it was. You look at the Hall of Famers that were on those teams that went to the NFL. They were a top 5 program every single year. They handle a coach like that who went there and really didn't do a bad job for the facilities and everything included. All the problems they had going on within the program, within the college, to treat him like that and pretty much make an ass out of him publicly. It all leaked publicly. So he was literally just sitting there being like, can you hire this guy so you can give me my money and I can leave with my tail between my legs? It's just disgusting. I mean, if you're, I think it's a black eye for Miami. I think ultimately they got the guy I guess they wanted in Mario. I don't think he's going to succeed there, for the record. I'll put that on record now. But the way they handle Manny Diaz and just the absolute shit show of an embarrassment they put on as a university for this week, it's University of Miami football.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Guys, roll the video. You got the video ready? Send a TikTok video. I just need all the listeners and people that are watching to see the video. All right, send it to Mike. Great. Audio. Never mind. I'm not going to get in this. So mine's Kenny Pickett. And Kenny Pickett had a fake slide this week versus... Kenny Pickett had a fake slide this week in the ACC championship game. And in that ACC championship game, he had a 17, 18-yard run. He faked as if he was going to slide and then took off for 40 more yards for the touchdown. Now, a lot of people have been praising him for the smart play of fake slide and faking out the defender. I think it's a really slippery slope, and I think it's I actually think next year it should be flagged. I think it's one of those things that should be flagged. I think that you have defenders, and your emphasis on protecting the quarterback has been so huge. You throw these college kids out for targeting, and they're hauling off because they see the guy's about to slide, and then he ends up taking off for the touchdown. I hope that if he does play, and there is thought that he would not be playing in the New Year's Day Bowl that he's supposed to be playing in. He's talking about sitting that out. I hope he does play, and I hope he does go to slide, and the first college defender takes his friggin' head off when he slides and gets thrown out of the game. Because you're putting these defenders at an absolute crutch in the NFL and the NCAA with these quarterbacks and protecting the quarterback. And then what you end up doing is you end up putting them in a really tough spot, and somebody's going to get hurt, and somebody's going to lose their job, and these defenders guys are going to get thrown out of the game for targeting. So here's the play right here. Kenny Pickett, fake slide. Here it goes again. Drops back. Fake slide about 17 yards, and takes off for 40 more yards for the touchdown after defenders noticeably pulled off him. So, with that, Kenny Pickett for sitting out the bowl game, or talking about sitting out the bowl game, and the fake slide, which is going to do a ton of hurt for these quarterbacks that are trying to protect themselves this week.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
I guess you guys we can talk about this a little bit more next week. If you guys want to give a quick 10-second disagreement with me, I'm sure you guys disagree.
I mean, I don't know how you can flag it. It is a slippery slope. I do agree with that. But it's, in a sense, it's similar to players going towards the sideline and then cutting back at the last second. The only way I think you can police it is that, at that point, if you're 15 yards down the field, you're treated like a runner. Don't hit him in the helmet, but if he's running and he wants to fake slide, hit him. I'm good with that. It's football.
So if they hit him and he slides because they don't know if he's fake sliding or not, and they get thrown out of the game for targeting, and the kid doesn't get out to play in a bowl game or get to be able to play the rest of the ACC championship game because he fake slid, and they don't know whether he's doing it or not.
Don't use your helmet.
Yeah, you're confusing tackling him with targeting him. Like, if he's going to fake slide or then he actually does go down and you tackle him, you can still hit him without getting targeting.
Correct.
It's not an automatic targeting call. So, I mean, again, I don't disagree that it's a slippery slope, but I don't think it's the end of the world either.
Okay. Well, any final thoughts, guys?
I got nothing.
Me neither.
All right. So if you're listening, sign up for betopenly.com. Send me an email at either wire-to-wire-sportspod@gmail.com or gino8121@gmail.com to let me know that you signed up. We want to show Gino and the team at Bet Openly that we're on board. They're on board with us, so help us help, and it'll help you with a little bit of your juice. With that, we're signing out show 62 Wire to Wire.